Welcome, we are back with another episode of Zero to Hero. Last time we pushed hard and even managed to complete an 8 Cinderbrew. Despite our eye level, we're still pushing hard. Today's goal is to push even further and hit Keystone Master, aka 2000 IO rating. This will give us a catalyst charge letting us craft an early 2 set piece. Let's waste no time and dive right into our first dungeon of the day, a 6 Motherload. I just finished a Motherload and I wasn't recording and I didn't realise. But yeah, so the route I was doing before was Yoda's, but this skip at the start was almost impossible because every single time somebody pulled the assassins. So instead we went with route 2 weekly. Where is it? There it is. Boom. Went with this route instead, where we cleared the first pack and then the second, and then out the gate we go to the right. Yeah, so I've been doing this a few times now. For the record, both of the routes are shocking. I do not recommend either of them. Let's actually kick today's episode off with a 7th Theatre of Pain. The dungeon was going really well. We reached the final boss with 8 minutes left. There's no way we can mess it up, right? Alright, let me explain. First wipe, we got overwhelmed. The affix came in, we started getting sucked off, ads spawned on our heads, and the next minute, everyone was dropping like flies. Second wipe, a bunch of cows wrecked us. Third wipe, we got sucked in again. Yikes, it's a bad spawn point. The fourth wipe was on me. The overlaps were just insane. I went from 100 to 0 in a matter of seconds. It just does so much damage. On the 5th try, we succeeded. I finally understood the boss pattern. Reaping Scythe sometimes overlaps with other abilities, so I made sure to pop a major defensive just before it went off. And just like that, we finished off the dungeon. Sadly, we failed the dungeon, but I learned a lot from this experience. After that, I ended up running a 2 Rookery, just to learn the dungeon. It was a 2, and I was way too overleveled, so we finished this with 10 minutes to spare. But now we got some experience, let's try our luck in a 6. Go big or go home, baby. Alright, we need to work on that pull. The first boss in Rookery is so easy. I don't even know how people can even die to this boss, but somehow 2 of my teammates managed to lose their lives. Because the boss was around 50% health, I decided to play it out, and it was going smooth until we lost our mage and then our chamois right after. So I was left in another solo situation. A fight that should have lasted only 2 minutes ended up lasting over 4. Our teammates locked in right after that fiesta. I was a little bit worried going into the double diffusers, but we made light work of these beefy boys. The second boss is also an easy boss. With the debuff, your tank can easily tank 2 charges of it, so don't be afraid to give it in more than once. But tanks, if you do take 2 stacks, make sure to pop one of your major defensives, otherwise you will 100% fall over. I always love this next pull. I feel like Batman gliding in like a majestic beast. To be fair, I kind of overpulled here. All these routes are just being tested. We will be more efficient once we get to higher keys. These void stones hit like a truck in higher keys. If you didn't know, they have an ability called void extraction. So avoid pulling too many civilians, because if these get too many stacks, Unleashed Darkness will do massive AoE damage to the group. Thankfully, our group were gamers, so we didn't have too much of an issue. We finished the key with 6 minutes to spare, but we missed the 2 chests by just a few seconds. You love spicy pulls, right? Well, here's a very questionable one on a 6 Priory. This dungeon is hated by the community right now. Personally, I don't mind it. I'd rather play this over City of Threads. Most people fear this dungeon because they make questionable pulls like this one. At the time, I didn't know these sharpshooters were such a pain in the ass. If the group isn't stacked, it's almost impossible to group them up nicely. These guys spam shoot and pot shot non-stop. In high keys, if one player gets targeted by more than 2 of them, they're dead. Overall, the bosses weren't too bad. Just don't be like my DPS and get it collateraled. I said in my last video, these paladins hit harder than my stepfather.
What did he say?
But I trusted my group, they were pumping hard, so I said screw it, let's turn this into a party. We made light work of Baron, but I will definitely get back to him in another episode. 6s were starting to feel easier. This was filmed during the first week of the season, so I feel like the people pushing these keys had really good gaming chairs. We were making light work of pretty much everything. We cleaned up the dungeon with 7 minutes to spare and got our best in slot trinket. I wanted to clear all the 6s, so up next is Darkflame Cleft. The first pull is a little bit spicy, but once I master it, it's going to be clean as hell. If you line of sight behind this wall, all the casters will come flooding in. The only annoying thing is though, this Overseer, once you finally group everyone up, this big baby will just throw a tantrum and knock everyone away. I used Sigil of Chains too early. Ideally, you want a druid with Vortex, that way when the Overseers try and knock them away, they just get sucked right back in. Again, I don't know what's wrong with this season, but almost every boss is easy. There's nothing really to worry about as long as people use their CCs, and for the love of God, kill that Kart. Seriously, kill it. You can line of sight again on these flame tenders, just make sure to use hard CCs to stop all their casts. Don't waste your Sigil of Silence here, you'll need it for the next pack. Just look how beautiful Sigil of Silence would have been right here to stop all these casts. Thankfully, this was only a 6, so gripping them all in with chains and using one of our hard CC abilities allowed us to deal with all the casters in one fell swoop. Right, I take what I said back. This boss is actually pretty tough. I try my best to explain it because I know this boss is messing up a lot of pug groups. Ideally, you'd want to destroy the isolated wax figure with the pickaxe thrown at you. Then, destroy the remaining ones with the swirls. Immediately after, group up with your tank. This is because the Eerie Mold is the ability that creates your statue, so if you're all stacked together, you can easily manage the statues. Just don't mess up the pickaxe like I did. As you can see, there's still a statue alive, and it's pulsating an AoE fire on the group, so if you leave multiple alive, well, you're just gonna get overwhelmed and die. The rest of the dungeon was a breeze, so we easily 2-chested it. We also got a back upgrade. We just have one more dungeon left to time on a 6, and that is the dreaded Floodgates. To be fair, this wasn't actually that bad this time around. Sometimes, just taking your time and pulling what the group can handle surprisingly makes the dungeon easier. Who would have thought? There is some new tech that I learned on VDH where you use the hunt on a far range mob and then spam Infernal Strike to cancel the dash. So if you ever want to pull in mobs that are too far away, you can do this instead. This next pack is pretty annoying because of the Demolitioner. It will cast RPG, which makes a bunch of spores come down on you. You can interrupt the reload with any hard CC, so make sure after the cast you perma CC him, otherwise this pack will be a hassle to take down. The first boss in Floodgates went pretty smooth. I kept him closer to the wall this time so my teammates can bait the dash. If done right, your DPS can have some serious uptime on the ads. This can be a long fight, so doing this can be a serious time saver in later keys. The pack after the boss is deadly, but the worst thing is, there's the exact same pack right after, and to rub more salt into the wound, they decided to throw in a Demolisher too. My group was good, so these packs weren't as deadly as I'm making them out to be, but believe me, these guys normally hurt. At this point in the dungeon, I knew my group was good and felt confident, so I kept on pulling big. You get to the point in dungeons where you just know you're killing packs super fast, so you can pull based around that. Just don't go too insane and start pulling the entire dungeon. Honestly, there's not really much to say about this dungeon. It was super easy and we ended up 2-chesting it, with 10 seconds remaining. We got no loot, but we are just one dungeon away from Keystone Master, so let's lock in and time this at 8 Rookery. My power just blew up. That's always fun. Come on. Come on. Hurry up.
The next day.
Come on, man. Holy shit, this is the longest loading screen ever. Yeah, that was the longest of loading screens. We lost 4 whole minutes, so we had to lock in immediately. But not fully knowing the dungeon yet, I accidentally pulled these 3 mobs with the boss. And of course, that led to a wipe. To make up for it and save time, I said screw it and pulled the boss with these mobs. We managed to make it work, but this is a stupid idea. These 3 mobs non-stop spam Thunderbolt, so pulling them with another pack can lead to a wipe. So pulling them with the boss was a stupid idea. Like I said though, we made it work, so we finished the boss with no deaths. We had 16 minutes going into the double diffusers. If we make no mistakes, we can easily time this key, and that is exactly what we did. We played the second boss perfectly. These guys must have grew up watching the Chuckle Brothers, because they had the perfect idea of passing me the debuff twice, so this fight went insanely smooth. I wasn't wasting any time and was still doing my stupid Batman pull, and it almost got out of control. I was full of dumb pulls this dungeon. Pulling these 2 ascendants was one of them. In my head, I just assumed someone would interrupt the cast and we would group them all up nicely, but instead, it led to this fiesta. Seven minutes going into the final boss, and it was looking timeable until my dumb ass got knocked off the map, so I had to do the swim of shame. This last boss is super easy for the tank. Honestly, just using your main big defensives such as Fiery Brand, Earl Devastation and Meta on the tank buster abilities make it so you are basically immortal. If you time it really well, you can have Brand up for all 3 of the mechanics. Once we knocked the boss down into its damage phase, we got to pumping. And pumped we did. Just in our first rotation, we got the boss down to 60% health, so it only took us a few more rotations to finally kill it. Even with the disconnect and the wipe on the first boss, we still easily timed this key, so there's no excuses as to why you can't time your keys. We achieved our goal of hitting Keystone Master, receiving our mount and our Catalyst charge. Sadly, we got no loot, but the same group wanted to do a 9. I felt bad for disconnecting and I just knew I had to make up for them. But before we jumped right into that, we crafted our 2 set piece. Now we're looking like this going into a 9 Cinderbrew. I've been working on my opener, so enjoy. My pulls were nothing short of insane in this dungeon. For some reason, I had the bright idea of pulling Chewy with this pack. At this point in time, Chewy made every mob around him immune to CC. In other words, it was him. Luckily, I didn't make the mistake of pulling him in too early. By the time he reached us and did his main AoE ability Tenderize, all the scary mobs were dead. The first boss in Cinderbrew is a bit of a pain. The good thing is though, you can easily deliver the brews to the thirsty customers, so this will help relieve the AoE damage that's going out on the group. His main tank buster is Keg Smash. It doesn't do insane damage, just try and bait the swirls that he drops in a good place, avoid the frontal, and most of all, don't die. Unfortunately, we got a nasty overlap going into the next intermission. Our druid got the throwing Cinderbrew dot on him, and because we had a monk healer, it was a bit of a pain to heal both targets, so our druid eventually died. I talked about this dungeon in my last video, but I pretty much pulled the same packs. The only difference here is that I didn't listen to my own advice, and had the bright idea of staying in the circle, so I got stunned and almost died. Having a druid in your group this season is amazing. Beam is such a useful ability. Combining it with Sigil of Chains makes it so you can pump down packs for almost 8 seconds without the worry of kicking stuff. But this is a pug. People don't kick anyway, so the only difference is that your healer doesn't need to worry about healing your dumbass for a whole 8 seconds. But after that, it's back to nothing but pure panic for your healer. Pulling this pack into the room makes it so you have enough space to clear the boss room without the worry of accidentally chain pulling the entire room. As for the IPA boss, honestly, I have no clue how to play this boss. Just kill the ads and kite the boss around the room. Just make sure the ads don't reach him and you're pretty much golden. The final pack before the BEO herself are easy. Just mark one with a skull and focus it down.
Now you're dealing with the VEO herself.
This fight can get crazy real fast. In a perfect world, your tank can do all the mechanics, and all you DPS need to do is focus on hitting the boss. And if you're ranged DPS, just destroy the baby barrels. And healers, well, just heal, right? During the AoE damage phase, just drop down a group defensive like Darkness or AMZ. Everyone will thank you for it. Well, that's if they stand in it anyway. I scream it in chat and people still actively avoid it. We timed our first 9 with no issues. The only issue I'm having is getting loot. We barely got any eye level today, but we did create a 2 set piece. If you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.